Hey y'all, so the secrets behind Bluetooth. I am referencing out of the book, which I feel like I reference out of a lot of books because books, they just don't sleep on a book ever. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever sleep on a book that calls to you because there's probably something in there that's going to speak to you in some way, even if it's fiction or nonfiction. I've always loved books. You know, as a little girl, I would read books all the time and I'd just get lost in that book, like as if it was me or happening to me. And that was a way that I made it through my reality when I was a kid because, it wasn't always bright. But, so I'm reading this book called Orion's Door, Symbols of Consciousness and Blueprints of Control, The Story of Orion's Influence Over Humanity by Neil Haig, and I hope I'm saying that right, or Neil Hogg. But don't sleep on this book, y'all. It's like $30 on Amazon. Where I got it off. That's how much it was for me. But if you really kind of want to understand more of how a lot of parallels of the Orion, what happened in Orion, are playing out in America, understand more of like these occult symbols, and a lot of them are stemming from Orion, dynamics, miasmas, and things that played out there that, have trickled onto Earth, and this book touches on that completely. But on page 487, he gets into talking about Bluetooth. He talks about the hues of blue and red and how they're almost completely opposite on the spectrum. So, like, same with, like, how they use pink and blue for, like, a boy and a girl. It keeps us kind of in this polarity kind of state of mind. And like I said, don't sleep on this book. I really recommend you get it if you are interested in, like, quote-unquote conspiracy theories, if you really want to, like, understand, like, why they're specifically choosing that kind of symbol, why they are doing that, what is going on behind it. This book goes into that. So this is not paid promotion, but anyways, it's a good book. So he basically talks about how Bluetooth was named after a Danish king, and his name was Harold Bluetooth. So he says, Harold Bluetooth is why the symbol for Bluetooth is a combination of runes, because he was a Danish king. So you have the bind rune, to be specific, coming from mines at the Silicon Valley Intel Corporation, which they are very notorious. Anyway, so the rune symbol relates to binding magic, and the letter B, or the Bajarken, the birch in the logo, can be seen in the old Norwegian rune poem as Loki, the clown or trickster, the horn hoka god, the master of deceit. The letter runic H in the logo is the Hagal or Hell rune, referring to Christ creating the world of old. Notice also the X formed by the binding, which relates to star magic and spells, subjects I covered in chapter 10. The whole idea behind Bluetooth technology was to create a linkage between computer devices in the early 90s operating under what IT specialists call a quote-unquote master and slave connection, or a BR/EDR network. It is also perfect for track and trace apps, especially since the coronavirus pandemic and the cult's push for endless surveillance. Bluetooth devices were the early stages of forming the wireless AI transformation of humanity technology, now being used ever more to create a cyber grid. And then he gets into more on that in further chapters, which I'm definitely going to do a video about the cyber grid. We're actually seeing a lot of, like, scalar technologies and this new Earth coming up online. So there's going to be a lot of blackouts coming. We're hearing about them all across the world, but it's not only going to be across the world, it's going to be in America soon. So, prepare yourself for that. I'm not trying to put you in a fear-based thing, but it is true. We have, ChatGPT, we have all this electromagnetic energy running through Earth, and Earth is more magnetic. She's more magnetic in nature. So the electricity, the electromagnetic, all that kind of stuff, we're going to see a switch in that. I really do believe we're going to eventually get to a point where we're back living like, in tribes, living in huts, so to speak, or just living off the land like we were made to do, right? So that was the end of that paragraph in that book, and that goes from 487 to 488. So the symbol, again, was picked by minds from the Silicon Valley Intel Corporation. This symbol is a combination of runes. So no, runes are not bad. Everything, okay, again, it's just depending on how you use runes. Are you using runes for protection, warding, breaking spells, things like that? Or are you using it for hexing, binding, using black magic? It just depends on what you're doing with the runes. I don't want you guys to think that I am saying the runes are bad, but we just need to understand, like, you've got your Bluetooth on all the time, or, I have Bluetooth headphones. I prefer them better than the cord, right? Okay, so maybe, I use those, I turn on the Bluetooth, use those, or maybe if I'm using the Bluetooth speaker in my car, my car to play music, it might take Bluetooth, so, like, I might use Bluetooth then, but I know now it's just, to make sure it's always off, and that those things you're hearing in the news about, if you've ever heard about Bluetooth killing cells and things like that, it's very true. Yes, it does have a low percentage of radiation, but the thing is like, we're at this point where, think about it. Bluetooth is everywhere. There's AI technology running through the air. There's literally, every street basically has light poles with cords, ran through them, for our electricity. And one thing, one point to get to, and I'll further, dissect this book because it's so good, so we can have a better understanding of our reality now, and especially if this really calls to you, or, this really resonates, you possibly could be an Orion Starseed, and I would love to help you find that out. If you just click the Etsy link, it's $55. I'll get started on your chart immediately, and, I add a little bit of chunk about the galactic history, your Christic lineages that you possibly could be, a descendant from, your Christic mission, what your DNA is waiting to be activated, what you're here to bring online onto the new Earth. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing these AI, false matrix systems, these false AI grid work. Okay, because there's the original grid work of the Earth, the original ley lines of the Earth, but they've hijacked these things. You know what I'm saying? These certain people, and you guys know what I'm talking about, have hijacked these things for a certain reason, to keep us, again, dumbed down, to where we don't know who we are, we're not able to put the pieces together. If we don't know the true history, if we don't know what really happened to us, how are we really going to know what makes us? You know what I'm saying? So the bee or birch rune was referenced in the old Norwegian rune poem as Loki, the horned Hoka god, who was known for being the master of deceit. So just in the Bluetooth logo alone, it's like a ha ha ha, we're binding you. This is pure deceit. Okay, so why Bluetooth? So it's perfect for tracking and tracing people and what they're doing. The main focus was to create a linkage between computers, but this was just the beginning of an attempt at an AI transformation of humanity. The early stages of the agenda's cyber grid that will be the quote-unquote chi for the artificial intelligence take over. So most of us here on this planet, we are hydroplasma beings. So we are water, we are blood. So what is from Bluetooth that's causing cells to die that could be bad, right? So here I looked it up. Obviously, Google is going to be like, there's not enough scientific information to back this up. So la 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 la. But we also know that Google is ran by these people too. Okay, so electromagnetic radiation concern. So there's low-level exposure. That's what it says. So it's like, no worries. You get low-level exposure. But we got to think about the kids like, okay, me, I'm a Gen Z. I was born in 2002. So ever since I've been born, there has been Bluetooth towers. There has been cell towers just running through my body, running through everybody's body for our whole life. You know what I'm saying? And you think of all these people who are getting cancer, you know, and we're like, oh, it's always genetic. It's always genetic. You know, I'm kind of to that point where I don't feel like it's always genetic. So, and then, yeah, like, if you guys have, obviously, I know, like I said, like, I use my Bluetooth headphones. I use Bluetooth on my phone to, like, play music in my car when I'm driving. I get it. Bluetooth is everywhere. Just, like, try to minimalize it. Like, you know, turn it off when you're not using it. You know, especially to make sure you're not getting hacked into and stuff, because there's so many, bots, so to speak, or people who are really smart that use, like, Bluetooth technologies, you know, in that order to, like, get what they need, like, you know, money, or they're trying to see you do stuff, or, you know, there's all kinds of creepy things out there. But really, my point was to bring some light, you know, the secrets of Bluetooth, you know, where did this come from? What was their motive behind it? I'm not gonna lie, Bluetooth used to come in handy when I was a kid, when I would want to, you know, Bluetooth my photos to, like, my iPad and my phone, and I didn't have minutes yet and all that stuff. So it was cool. It helps out, right? And again, you know, it's pure consciousness. It's just how we're using it. And obviously, they have a negative agenda behind the Bluetooth. And just how can we move forward? And I feel like, you know, just make sure you minimalize your amount you're using Bluetooth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and again, I read this from Orion Store's Symbols of Consciousness and Blueprints of Control, The Story of Orion's Influence Over Humanity by Neil Haig. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Thank you.